Let me ask you something and answer honestly. How many times have you been convinced that this would finally be your year, only to find yourself frustrated, feeling behind, and quietly disappointed in yourself? Not dramatic, not spiraling, just that low level thought of, why can't I ever keep this going? Here's what I want you to hear before we go any further. Your goals don't keep dying after January because you're lazy. They don't die because you lack discipline. And they don't die because you don't want to improve your life. They die because most women are trying to execute goals inside of systems that were never designed for their actual lives, their real lives. And today I want to talk to you about why that happens calmly, honestly, and without the shame that usually comes with this type of conversation. If you've ever felt capable but inconsistent and overwhelmed and ambitious, then this video is for you. January is a very convincing month. There's energy, there's hope, there's space to plan a version of yourself that you can have it all together in that version of yourself, right? So you can plan from a version of yourself that always wakes up rested, you never have interrupted mornings, you stay motivated every single day, and you never get sick, you don't have an off week, you don't need a rest week at all, you never have to reset. For a few weeks, it kind of works. Then February shows up. Deadlines, family needs, emotional weight, unexpected responsibilities. And suddenly, the plan you made in January feels heavy. So you start skipping pieces of it, then totally avoiding it, then feeling guilty about it and deciding you'll start fresh later. This is where most women assume the problem is them. It's not. Here's a truth that most productivity advice skips. Most women don't quit their goals. They quietly disengage from advice that just, quite frankly, isn't working. The issue isn't effort here, it's alignment. Most goal setting systems assume that you have stable energy, a predictable schedule, minimal emotional labor, not true, and one primary focus. But most women, especially caregivers, working moms, leaders, and entrepreneurs, that's just not the case. And I know that myself as well because I'm a social worker. I work full time. I have two kids. I own a candle business. I have a lot of layered responsibilities throughout my day and throughout my life. I'm constantly switching hats on and off in a 24-hour time frame. I know what it's like to be fully busy, but also I have a lot of systems in my household that help me to manage everything. Systems at work that I do, systems in my household, and systems in my business. I even have systems in the relationships with my children to make them know when they're going to allow me to allow time to film, like right now. They're not bothering me. Did you notice that? There's also other times when I have to work on my business. So they know when I have to do certain things like that. But I do schedule time with my family so that we can do SEL lessons, we do family game night, a lot of different ways you can engage with your children and still be busy and be productive to get the things done to move the needle in your life so that you can have the life that you want ultimately. You guys know what I'm trying to say. Instead of doing things that you feel as though your energy is shifting to different areas and you're not able to focus on what your joys and passions are, you're able to still do that when you schedule time with your family and friends outside of the working blocks that you have scheduled. Not time blocking, but when you have different schedules and priorities throughout the day, you can get different things done to move the needle where you want it to be. Hopefully, this makes sense. I don't time block my day, but I do a top three priority of things outside of my work as a social worker that are going to move the needle forward in my life. And it has to be related to this business that I'm doing here or my candle business and things, other areas of my life that I want to work on. And that's how I make progress over my 12 weeks. Your life has layers, your capacity shifts, and your responsibilities, they overlap. My responsibilities overlap. Yet you're told to just be more disciplined, and it doesn't work. That advice ignores context, and context matters. Let's talk about yearly goals for a second. A year sounds motivating, right? But functionally, it's overwhelming. And that's because a year has no urgency. It has no urgency. It makes it easy to delay execution. It makes it hard to see progress. And when the finish line is 12 months away, your brain doesn't feel safe investing effort today. And that's what you get. So instead of consistent execution, you get bursts of motivation, you get long pauses, you get restarts, you have self-blame, not because you don't care, but because the structure is too vague to support the follow-through, and you just can't see through. This is why I stopped planning my life by the year. Instead, I plan in 12-week seasons. Not because it's trendy, but because it works with how real women's lives function in this type of life, right? 12 weeks is long enough. It's long enough to matter. It's short enough to stay engaged. It's close enough to create urgency. And it's clear enough to measure progress. So, when you plan in shorter seasons, something powerful happens, right? You stop fantasizing and you actually start deciding because your time is shorter, and that shorter amount of time really matters longer than planning something over the course of a year. You choose fewer goals, you commit to something more deeply, you stop asking, can I do everything? And you start asking, what deserves my leadership right now? And this is where the CEO mindset comes in. A CEO doesn't rely on motivation, she relies on decision making. She doesn't plan from wishful thinking, she plans from reality. CEO energy is calm, grounded, and intentional. It sounds like this is the season I'm in now, this is what matters now, and these are things that can wait. You see these 3 different seasons? We all rotate through these at different points in our lives. So I'm going to talk more about these in another video. Don't worry if you don't know which season you're in now. I'll help you figure that out later. When women adopt this mindset, something subtle but important happens. She stops abandoning themselves every time life gets hard. Even the best 12-week plan fails without leadership. They don't decide what gets protected, what gets deferred, what gets time. So the week fills itself. A CEO weekly style planning is a pause, a check-in, a recommitment. Not perfection, not control, just direction. And direction, it builds trust with yourself. So you should do it. Let's talk about discipline because it's been misunderstood. Discipline is not being harsh or being rigid or being hard on yourself. Real discipline is self-leadership. It's returning instead of quitting. It's adjusting instead of abandoning. It's finishing instead of restarting. When a plan fits your life, discipline stops feeling like it's forced and it starts feeling like support. If your goals have already fallen off this year, here's the reframe I want you to leave with. You didn't fail, you outgrew a system that didn't honor your life. You don't need a new year. You don't need more motivation. You don't need to become someone else. You need shorter seasons, more clear priorities, weekly leadership, and a plan that actually respects your reality. This is the plan I use. This is my 90-day planner that I created for the next 12 weeks to keep track of all of my goals. And that's what Cynthia Means Business is all about. Helping women stop starting over and start leading with calm, clarity, and confidence. If this resonated, subscribe for more CEO-style conversation planning. Your goals don't need more pressure. They need better structure, and you are more than capable of that. Click the link in my description box to get my CEO Reset Workbook. I'll see you guys in the next video.